Things do not always work the way you may have expected, and this latest update is no exception. In this video, we're going to go over a bunch of things from this update, including the heroes, the war pets, and how you can see all their skills, a few recommendations before I make detailed guides. I mean, it's way too early for me to know all the details of these pets just yet, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get into it. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming and I'm always hyped to see new war pets in Call of Dragons. In this video, we're not only going to review the war pets and the heroes, but also ways you can see the artifacts and other things as well. So consider subscribing to the channel if you like information about Call of Dragons and guidance that definitely gives you a good direction to go with your account when stuff like this lands in game. Let's start with the pets, because I mean, like, people are going nuts over these pets right now, and should they be? The Shadow Faedrake is a really cool mage pet, and it is designed for Tohar and also Bertrand, the new single target damage heroes. And really, I would steer this more in the direction of Tohar than Bertrand. Let me explain why. What does this pet do? Deals damage to the target legion and inflicts captive. So this does magic damage factor, and your legion deals more damage to targets inflicted with captive. It has a 2-second duration and a damage bonus of 2.14. This is a 1-star talent skill. I did get lucky at reset today to score one of these, and I did regenerate and landed on 8 skill slots, and I was like, wow, I mean, I don't think this is final form for me, but I'll stop for now. So, generally speaking, some guidance with pets is that they can be either all about enhancing the hero or all about enhancing what the pet can do. And that's the way you build out your pet. And this one is smack dab in the middle. So this is a little bit weird. Again, it's got an effect, which is enhancing your hero. Now, if this worked the way I thought it worked, legions deal more damage to targets inflicted with captive. Oh my god, this is the best war pet in the game. Oh my god, legions deal more damage. If this is a debuff and all legions deal more damage, hell freaking yeah, bro, that's insane. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. Let me show you in the battle logs the way this actually works. So here my Shadow Faedrake cast Shadow Hunter. This is a 0-star talent skill, Shadow Faedrake, that had 1.36% damage bonus for what it's worth. And the target legion gained captive for 2 seconds, taking effect on the next turn. So what do we see on the next turn? Shadow Hunter, inflicted captive on the Darkling Archer's Legion, takes extra damage from the Legion that applied this effect. 1 second remaining. Aha. So, I mean, is it cool for your Legion to, be boosting the damage that it deals to the enemy? Yes. Is it cool to be inflicting a debuff? I mean, there are times where inflicting a debuff can be synergistic with other things in your skills or your talents, but this is not quite, this is okay, maybe not fractionally as strong as what you might have interpreted from the way this is worded. Legions deal more damage? No. Your legion that inflicted captivate or captive deals more damage. So, GG, assuming that this part is worded correctly and the talent skill is not, at least it's worded correctly here, and so now we know that this is what it does, okay? So, is this still good? Yes. But is this likely to be better than a Sapphire Faedrake? Probably not. In almost all open field, when you have a pet that can hit 2 targets, welcome to the, like, what are we even talking about? Like, this is just going to be better. Especially when you can enhance this to, like, hit even more targets if you get the end of season skill for that, which, like, hey, look, Sapphire Faedrake is looking real good still, okay? Now, where is the Shadow Faedrake going to be really good? Well, like I said, I suspect this is going to be really good on Tohar. So, why would it be that this is really good on Tohar, okay? So if we get a look at what Tohar is doing, he is doing single target damage, and if you are garrisoning and you're getting rallied, you only care about the one target you're fighting. So I have a suspicion that when we look at the Shadow Faedrake's max damage, I mean, I don't have a max Shadow Faedrake yet, so I can't tell you, but I suspect that when we're looking at the Shadow Faedrake's max damage, you will get more in total in a single target situation versus like a rally if you're garrisoning with Tohar. Now, most people aren't garrisoning with Tohar, they're fighting in the open field, which is why I said Sapphire Faedrake is likely to still be the jam. I obviously need to do more testing, level it up, play around with it more, but I think that's the case. Now, the other thing I want to talk about while I'm here is let's just talk a little bit about the way Tohar works. In my previous video, I hypothesized that, wait a minute, if every 5 normal attacks you start channeling Rage of the Plateau for 5 seconds, does that mean that you enter a state where you channel infinitely? In other words, you do 5 normal attacks, then for 5 seconds, you're doing skill damage and normal attacks, right? So then you should channel all over again? Is there an internal cooldown on this thing? And so I reached out to developers and I said, hey, do you still do normal attacks while you are channeling? And they told me the answer, no, you do not still do normal attacks while channeling. Now, if that works out to be true, and I want to see the battle logs to really fully understand how this actually works, and who knows what quirks there are about this, but if that is the way that it works, that definitely makes it so you could not continuously be channeling. Now, one other thing that I think would be kind of interesting, and I don't know if this will work or not, is if you can get synergy with a pet skill that you know I love, and that pet skill that you know that I love is Chain Strike. Chain Strike makes it so you do a normal attack periodically, 50% chance to do an additional normal attack. But this is physical damage. So if I have a Mage March, will I even do this physical damage? I would assume not. But if I have a garrison for, say, my city, then I would certainly be doing physical damage, and Chain Strike could be insane on this pet, or it might not be. Like I said, I can't really make a build for this pet yet until I've done all the testing, because there's just too many unknowns, and it's way too early, but I am really hyped to make a full guide like I have for every pet. People are literally calling me the Pet Whisperer, so please consider subscribing if that's the sort of thing you're into. So all that to say, the Shadow Faedrake, I think, is going to be really good with Tohar. I think Tohar is still going to be awesome, even though I don't quite, like, until we see him in action, it's going to be really hard to say for sure, but I think he's good. It's just going to be a really good garrison, and it's going to be a really good garrison specifically against the new infantry, right? Like, I think it's designed to shred that infantry rally. And I think it will also be fine in the field. Like, I will almost certainly be using it in the field, and, you know, look, for most people, I think you just focus on Bertrand if you wanted an open fielder anyways. Like, he's the one that's got all the skills for the open field, right? Now, this brings us to the Bruinbear. And unfortunately, I don't have the talent skill on the Bruinbear. But if you wanted to know what the Bruinbear does, or if you wanted to know what the Shadow Faedrake does and what all the skill options are, great news. As I click into the wrong place, if you go to your Tails section, go to the Codex. After you've tapped on these on the map, you can go to the Creatures section, go down to Beasts, and voila, you can see all of the skills in the War Pets section. Now that's kind of cool. So with regard to the Shadow Faedrake, I will point out that Enduring Shadow Hunter is the end of season reward you can get if you hold the dragon. This is pretty amazing. It's from the Crystal Store. It makes it so that Shadow Hunter's effect, Captive, lasts longer. The 3-star version of this makes it so that I think if you had a really good pet, you could get an extra 3 seconds of your bonus damage. That is insane. This, to me, by the way, signals that this pet is largely about enhancing what your hero can do. And like I said, Tohar is all about that single target damage from the garrison. I suspect this is really good in that situation because remember, in most open world PvP, someone can just walk away from you and you need to engage another target. So this debuff on a target is really good when they're locked into combat with you. It's also really good for shredding infantry. And like, just to be really clear, Actually, this pet will be good for just, hey, you want to get some inf off the front line? This pet is going to do that work. Big time. All right. There's also Forceful Shadow Hunter. This you can actually buy, or you could capture a pet with it and, you know, release the pet to get the skill. But this is just giving you Shadow Hunter damage over here. So lots of ways to build this pet. Very, very cool. But like I said, the Bruinbear, I don't have one of these. What does it do? Well, here you go. Gains charged. Each counterattack against an enemy legion inflicts 1 stack of barbed mark, maximum of 3 stacks. The next time the hero casts a rage skill, they deal damage up to 5 surrounding enemies, carrying barbed mark, and clears all stacks of barbed mark from those enemies. So, how does this work? Let's just run through this, okay? So, when you counterattack, you put these barb mark stacks on the enemies that are near you, and they do need to be near you. I was chatting with the professor, big shout out, and he was saying that the range is about the same as, I think, you know, Goresh and Skogul's abilities range. So it's not an infinite range here like you'd see on, say, the Venomous Lizard. The next time the hero casts a rage skill, they deal damage to up to 5 surrounding enemies carrying barbed mark. So when you are fighting, at some point you gain this charged effect, and then for some amount of time, you're putting barbed marks on things, and then you deal damage to those things. I mean, this is just like, has to be a Goresh and Skogul pet, right? And I really want to get my hands on this and test a hell of a lot before I can even say, OMG, this is the pet for Goresh and Skogul. I think it's likely to be true. But like, as I just showed with the prior pet, you really need to see the skill in action to fully understand exactly how it's working. And I want to mess around with this more, okay? There are other things that you can do to this. One is Terrible Quickening. This is the end of season reward. And I believe you can get an upwards of like, with enough agility, you could get like 3 extra stacks, if I'm not mistaken, at least 2. But if you could get 3 extra stacks, you're looking at 6 stacks of barbed mark. This could end up being a lot of damage. We just got to see all the skill interactions to figure it out. And then Forceful Quickening. This is increasing the quickening damage dealt. The thing that's a little bit weird about this is that while I definitely like increasing my infantry's counterattack, kind of the whole point of infantry is just to live, ideally. So this will shred your enemy, and I did get great merits off my Goresh and Skogul, pretty much double what I was getting off of my Madeline Garwood combo. So I am hyped to see what the Bruinbear can do, but I will point out that if you already have a Venomous Lizard, this pet is pretty simple. It has a very far range, which is pretty sweet, and if you're getting swarmed, this can only trigger once per second, but that damage freaking stacks up, baby. It doesn't literally stack. I guess I mean adds up, but I mean the DPS is great on this. It's actually really like a shocking amount of DPS. But I will point out yet again that infantry is supposed to live. Now, on the topic of living, let's get a look at the new artifacts and see if there's any new artifacts that help you live. To see new artifacts, you click on an artifact, hit replace, and then scroll down, and this is how you can check out the ones that you don't already own. Now, we already know from my prior video that the Mirage Orb just looks absolutely insane. Big damage, big stun, seems fantastic. There are also 5 new artifacts where I said, man, it will be really nice to know what they do. This is how you figure out what they do. The Sunflame Hammer is infantry attack. Not really a fan of attack on infantry. Then defense. It does damage to the selected legion at 400 rage cost, and your legion has a 20% chance to receive additional healing when healed, or receiving a shield. This effect can be triggered once every 10 seconds. This is really good. Now, once every 10 seconds is not amazing, but this seems like a great budget version of something that you would put on Garwood and Madeline, especially if you're going to pair them together. So Sunflame Hammer seems cool. This does come from Forge, and I was thinking to myself, like, why are they putting epic artifacts into Forge? And I guess this is really designed to give free-to-play, low-spend a chase, so that if you're not big spending on Forge, in which case, like, you probably don't need these if you're big spending on Forge, unless you're in, like, Season 1, right? But it gives folks that are not big spending on Forge some cool artifacts with some good utility. Guardian's Runic Longsword, Cavalry Attack, Legion Defense, 600 Rage, solid damage, and the additional effect is, when your Legion enters battle, they take less range damage for 20 seconds. This is a pretty cool way to basically be a ranged unit hunter. I'm into it, man. I think this is good. From here, you have Automatic Vengeance. Whew. This ability on the Steelheart Avenger, Marksman Attack, Legion Attack. I like that combo. Okay, you deal damage to a couple targets. Love to see it. 2 enemy legions in a designated circle. Very good. Damage factor feels a little bit low, but let's see what else it does. Whenever your legion inflicts a debuff on the enemy legion using a hero skill, your legion deals 2% more normal attack damage for 15 seconds. As long as this is not giving an onslaught buff that does not stack with other onslaught buffs, this is pretty sweet. It does stack with itself, stacks 3 times, can be triggered every 8 seconds. I think this could be great. Steelheart Avenger on Kanara and Nico seems like a great early game pickup. Like, if I was in Season 1 and I got a Steelheart Avenger, I'd be feeling pretty good about it, although Shadow Blades are also pretty damn good. Might just use those. Lakeside Rhapsody, Mage item. Mage Attack, Legion Attack. Okay, good combo there. Deal damage to 2 enemy legions in a circle. 1000 damage factor. Love to see it. Deals additional damage whenever you inflict Scorch, Freeze, or Ensnare. OMG. So this is great on Lily and Velen. Can only be triggered once every 30 seconds, though, which feels a little cringe to me. Damage factor 120 at the lowest tier of this. Last 2 artifacts here, we've got the Dagger of Betrayal. This is a March speed artifact, and I do love to see March speed artifacts, and it gives attack. So this dispels a random buff from a nearby enemy legion at 200 rage. I don't know if this is a target ability or if it just hits a... I mean, it says a random enemy legion, so no, it must not be targeted. Deals damage to the target legion after you have dispelled 2 buff effects using artifact skills. So this is a little weird because, like, the cooldown is only 8 seconds, though. Wait a second. See, these all have like a minute 30, and I didn't even look at the cooldown because, like, who looks at the cooldown? But every 8 seconds, you're stripping a buff? Hey, yo, this thing is good. I was going to say cracked, but I'll just go with good. This is good. Sure. And then you get 200 factor. So, like, very quickly you can dispel some effects. The weird thing about this is, like, frontliners are just going to die. So, like, in a big fight, it's not doing anything. In a small fight, it's like, I don't know. Is it cute or is it good? I'm very interested in this. I think it's cool. I'm not going to use it personally. I'm using legendaries at this point, but I think it's pretty cool. And there was one other one, by the way, which was a peacekeeping artifact, which, like, hey, I guess if you're in the early game, Pyrotechnics. It's got peacekeeping damage and Legion defense, deal diffuse damage to up to 3 enemies in a designated circle. The weirdness here is that you don't typically fight 3 peacekeeping targets at the same time. So I feel like single target damage is kind of the jam for peacekeeping rather than area of effect. I don't know that that's actually a thing I have ever felt like I have needed or been doing, quite frankly. But the other thing I will point out is that now you can set your skills to autocast on your artifacts, which is pretty cool. So if I set this to autocast, it'll just shoot at whatever it wants to shoot at. So pros and cons to that. I generally want to say that I don't want to autocast, but there will probably be some artifacts where I'm like, yeah, just use it. Even the dragon scale armor, like, I'm inclined to want to control when I use it. In fact, for almost all artifacts, I don't know that I want to use this. The only one where I would consider it is maybe perhaps the Gold Crest, because so often what I want to target is just out of range. And so it is possible that, like, auto cast will solve that problem for me. And if they are in range for like half a second, then, like, boom, they're just dead. So we'll see what I ultimately end up doing here. There are a couple other things that are in this update that we haven't even talked about, but I feel like this video is almost long enough at this point. But there is a new Infantry City theme. I mean, for a player like me, this is a huge win to go and get because I don't open field with cavalry, and I do open field with 2 infantry marches. So the fact that I can take a theme that is basically got no downside when I'm in the most important fights of the season, which is when I'm not using cavalry, is a huge win to me. If we look at all these other themes, like cavalry defense I can use when I'm running around with my flying calves. Same with this one over here. This guy over here makes my mages worse, which I don't want to do for general open fielding. This makes my marksmen worse, which I don't want to do for general open fielding. This makes my infantry worse, which I don't want to do for general open fielding, but I always want to use this marksman attack if we're doing behemoths. Not health. You don't care about health. You want attack, baby. You got to get that DPS, all right? Now, Auspicious Reign, see why I'm saying this is very good? I will use this all the time because I will get, 2 armies of infantry. That's, a cumulative 10% health with no downside. Whereas, currently I'm getting 5 up, 5 down on my stats. So it's, at best, 5 up, 5 down. Maybe if I'm using 2 marksman marches, I guess I might get 10 up, 5 down, but you get the idea. Very hyped about the Auspicious Reign, all right? Be sure to pick that up if you do have the opportunity. Could take some light spending to make it happen. Might be able to get it free to play if you focus in the right things, all right? That covers, I think, some of the important things you need to know from this update. I really wanted to make a video talking about the pets. That, to me, was kind of the important thing. And like I said, I would not go all in on these pets yet. I feel like there is still so much to learn and so much testing to do before we can really draw some clean conclusions about what they will be best for. And I think, again, Shadow Faedrake likely to be best if you're shredding infantry marches and that's what you care about, whereas Sapphire is better for just general open fielding, hitting multiple targets. Like, what are we even talking about, right? Like, if the max DPS on this ends up being about the same as this, and it's got the debuff as well, I mean, like, here's the other thing to think about with this debuff, okay? Is that if this happens 2 seconds after your deputy uses their active skill, well, then wait a minute. Like, how much extra normal attack damage are you going to deal for a couple seconds? Like, is that even all that important? Whereas if you're using Tohar, maybe you will still be channeling while this is happening. You see why I think the Tohar is probably where this is at, okay? And then the Bruinbear, bro. I mean, you probably can use this with things other than Goresh and Skogul, but since they do extra counterattacks, this is gotta be where it goes. The other thing you can do to get extra counterattacks is to just use Counterstrike. This does count as an extra counterattack, so this could be another good way to get your stacks of the quickening talent skill rolling. Anyways, I don't have one yet. I will hopefully soon. Subscribe if you want to see those guides. Alternatively, I have a whole pet playlist, man. And so if you want to see a guide for any war pet, card will be up in the top. I've done most of them, but not all. And I feel like my guides are pretty good there. If you enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here. Consider subscribing if you're looking for more information, again, about the heroes as well. Check the card in the end screen. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.